Previously on the Beam Chronicles.
My father created my sister on a self-issued challenge. I raised her and cared for her as if she were my own daughter, and I do not exaggerate when I say I would have done anything for her.
Next thing I heard was a gunshot. Then I saw Charlie. She was holding a smoking Guillermo over the little girl's limp body.
He shut off the 6 blocker in the oubliette after we were done talking. I sixed around, I found my brain.
And Phyl, he wants to go look at it. And he thinks if he gets in front of the finished product, he'll understand specific things better. Then maybe he could even start developing a way to make Charlie immune to Howie's influence.
A completely new fundamental interaction of nature that he controls, one as of yet undiscovered. Nobody else will ever find it because the force carrier particle, Jackson, controls the whole particle field. The Tikik interaction didn't even occur until he started filling the universe with the bosons to mediate it. And I'm calling those Jacksons.
I grouped up to fly without another moment of hesitation, but when I regrouped, I think he jammed my brain's radio frequency. We were entwined now, all 3 of us, really tangled and matted in the filth, like the old myths about rat kings, where a big group of rats would get their tails all tied together. What if I made them rats? What if I broke my favorite person? The fact is, we're all going to get out of this shit together, or we're simply not going to get out of it. And maybe we plummet into the abyss screaming bloody murder, but at least we'll do it together. Understand? Do not try this shit ever again, or so help me, Jackson. Tell me that you get it.
I get it, Charlie.
These are the Beam Chronicles, with your host, MJ Dooney. Book 2, Compromised. Chapter 26, Cidney Kovorski.
Come, my dear, we must be getting home. I have a lesson in 10 minutes. My beautiful little sister was above me, standing in the tallest tree in the glen behind Kovorski's lab, our home. Although she had one hand pressed against the trunk to stabilize herself, I sincerely wished she would hold on tighter, use both hands. Regardless, I would catch her, should she fall.
Aw, Cidney, you promised me I could climb to the top.
Oh, but you are already at the top.
Am not!
She emphatically leaned forward as she said it, and my heart skipped a beat as the branch wiggled slightly. Actually, if you recall, what I said was you may climb to the second highest limb.
But how do I know which one is the second highest without first going to the highest?
Look above you, Cidney. Do you see that limb right above you? She tilted her neck back, spotting the branch I was alluding to.
Yep.
That one is the highest.
It is not!
Oh, I assure you, my dear, you have already reached the second highest limb.
I do not believe you!
I smiled softly. Well, no matter, come down. We must get back to the lab. I am already going to be late for my lesson. She frowned and kicked a piece of bark off the trunk.
Do you really have to go to that?
Naturally, Cidney. Father would be very upset if I was absent.
I hate it when you leave me.
And I hate leaving you.
It is so boring.
I know, my dear, I am sorry, but it will not be long.
And sometimes scary.
My heart twisted a little, considering our monstrous brothers and the savage things they may not have even realized they were doing. The locks on our door were hefty, more than sufficient to keep them at bay, out of sight, out of their feeble minds. And should an incident occur during a lesson, surely Dr. Kovorski would let me help little Cidney. Still, it was hard to ever be fully at ease. Jump down, Cidney, I will catch you.
Promise?
I will always catch you, my dear. And she grinned widely, baring all of her sharp teeth as she hopped out of the tree, floating down toward my outstretched arms.
Shoot the girl.
Before she could reach me, I woke up. Standing beside my bed, shaking my shoulder, was her killer. It had almost ceased being peculiar how similar my affections for them were. Unwavering, unquestionable, wholehearted.
You, sleeping in today, Sid?
My new sister asked wryly. I did not intend to, my dear. I was just enjoying a wonderful dream. What time is it?
5:30.
Jackson grumbled, arms folded and leaning against the doorway.
Sleeping in. Honestly, Cidney, you're nuts.
I was just about to question why they were both in my room, when I suddenly recalled that this was the day we had planned to infiltrate the oubliette, to allow Phyl the opportunity to examine Charlie's brain. I sat upright in my bed. Listen, my friends, I was hoping I may have an opportunity to persuade the two of you not to take on this endeavor.
Hey, it's not me that's pushing it. Phil's the one who wants this.
Yes, well, I have tried to bring up the matter to him, but you know how stubborn my brother can be when it comes to pursuits of scientific discovery. I figured my appeal would be better received with the two of you on board. She shook her head.
If you can't convince Phyl alone, I seriously doubt JT and I are going to help you. Besides, I've been sixing his skinny little ass for 2 weeks, not to mention all of his equipment. It would be a waste if I did all that for nothing.
That is hardly a good excuse to defy Prophet.
Don't be a drama queen, Sid. We're not defying anyone. We're just looking around.
I am simply suggesting that instead of sneaking behind his back, we request permission for Phyl to examine the apparatus. She shrugged.
Better to ask forgiveness than permission.
A mantra you adhere to most diligently, my dear. And one that should probably not qualify when dealing with powerful precognitive dictators.
Look, I know the last time you advocated for talking to Prophet, you turned out to be completely right, and I love you for never rubbing it in my face, even now. But honestly, if we ask and he says no, we'd still do it, and then if he'd caught us, it would be insubordination. If we do it now, we're not technically disobeying him.
Except for the way we are attempting to keep the whole ordeal a secret suggests that we are aware it would be frowned upon, even if it is not directly prohibited. It just appears outwardly aggressive, antagonistic perhaps. She sighed, exasperated as usual by my attempt at peaceful resolution.
Cidney, if he didn't want us down there, he could have kept the 6 block on and I wouldn't be able to group, right? He practically left the door unlocked.
Plus, you know Phyl just tried to do it with or without us. Remember the way he woke you up and took samples from you back when you were a prisoner? He'll just do something that stupid if we don't help. So think of it as us protecting Phyl. As a bonus, we might get a little valuable information out of it.
He was much less stubborn than she was. However, he was historically more likely to recklessly challenge Prophet's authority for pure moral self-fulfillment. I deduced between these two factors, neither could be effectively convinced quickly enough to prevent this venture, so I ceased my noble and foolish attempt at doing so and focused on making sure it went off without a hitch. I suppose that is a valid point.
We'll be careful. We know not to fly too close to the sun with Prophet. We're covering our tracks. Furthermore, if everything goes wrong, what's he gonna do? Kill us?
I smiled because he was joking. While I often tried to avoid thinking about the worst thing Prophet could do, Jackson made yet another good point. Sacrificing Ava and all its popularity over something so harmless would be unreasonable. Our celebrity had grown increasingly useful for this style of rationalization. I never thought I would find such strange value in my chicken nugget commercial.
Dungeons. Welcome, Agent T.
Upon collecting Phyl from his laboratory on the uppermost floor of HQ, along with a thick stack of Kovorski's notes and an intimidating assortment of gadgets and diagnostic equipment he had developed for his mission, we rode down to the dungeons to rendezvous with Tyler Foon. Jackson scanned his card at the cell, thus blacking out the dungeoneer security, and nodded wordlessly at the prisoner inside. Foon smiled a subtle smile, nodded back, not getting out of his bed. I snarled, perhaps even audibly growled, and when Jackson turned to face us again, he grinned.
So, you two are making the exact same face right now.
I looked down at Charlie to confirm it. He was correct. But she did not waver from her disgusted glare at Foon, who eventually just rolled over, possibly to avoid it.
You ready, Charlie?
Jackson asked, eager to distract from the thick tension. She blinked, shook her head, smiled pleasantly at him.
Kind of nervous, honestly. Lots of stuff. You two will be fine. Feels like 70% gonna be fine.
Oh, that's reassuring.
Oh, this shit's gonna be tough, but whatever. 2 weeks worth of sixing. I think I got it.
Check once, Charlie. Before you group, ensure this is not a trap with your sixth sense. Make sure Howie is not waiting for us down there.
Howie's in Colorado. Caraway confirmed it 10 minutes ago.
Just double check. From my peace of mind. She sighed, then shut her eyes for a moment.
Nope, no Howie. Still 3 heartbeats, your dad's asleep. Nobody will see us, all right? This is the cleanest shot we're gonna get.
I nodded confidently. Then let us proceed. And she did. I was the first person she dropped into the room in the oubliette, and once she grouped away to fetch Phyl, I had literally a second to acclimate myself to my surroundings. The brain chamber was dimly lit, and stone all around. It was not unlike an ancient crypt, the sort that would be under an old European church, down to the musty, forgotten smell. But the feature that defied that comparison was the large columnar structure in the center of the room, running from the floor to the ceiling and exerting the only light, a dim, eerie glow. It was unsettling in its futuristic robotic appearance, metallic, with wires and switches and knobs, regulatory pistons pumping, wheels spinning, trapdoors opening and closing to vent unidentified vapors, all seemingly at random. But there in the center of it all, bobbing in a vat of Kovorski's standard green bubbling liquid, was Charlie. And although it was only her brain, I caught myself smiling. Phyl gasped as he suddenly appeared beside me, wide-eyed, open mouth, shoulders hunched to his ears.
Shit on the stick. That's a bit unsettling.
Jackson showed up in the room mid-sentence while I chuckled and patted Phyl on the back. It requires a touch of getting used to, brother.
Yeah, eventually it's nothing.
Jackson piped in, admiring the neurological masterpiece in front of him, smiling the same curious smile that I wore moments before.
I barely notice it.
The duration of this brief conversation was all the time it took for Charlie to group the 3 of us plus Phil's elaborate ensemble of equipment into the brain chamber. And as soon as Jackson had commented on his familiarity with the phenomenon of grouping, she popped into the room herself, extending her fists triumphantly into the air.
Phew.
She exhaled, letting them drop to her sides.
That was a lot.
Very impressive, love.
Jackson stepped toward her, lifting his hand for a high five.
Why the fuck are we high-fiving, you fucking dork-ass dork?
Sorry.
Before he could let his hand fully droop, she slapped it nonetheless.
Whatever.
I saluted her. She blushed, rolled her eyes, returned the gesture.
I hate both of you. You're like chill disruptors. Subatomic aura.
Yeah, okay, let's make sure she didn't break anything before we start celebrating.
Phyl grumbled, rearranging his machinery and calibrating it properly. Charlie snorted loudly at his lack of confidence, certain she had accomplished her end of the deal. The rest was up to Phyl. The first thing he did was extend Charlie a helmet-like device that was hooked up to his laptop on the floor.
Put this on, please.
He mumbled distantly without glancing up from his computer.
God damn it.
Charlie groaned and reluctantly fastened the helmet around her head.
This better be worth it.
Jackson snickered once it was on, and she belted him in the chest. I pretended to be coughing, so as not to get struck myself. And Phil, meanwhile, buzzed about, pressing on uninhibited with his noble quest for knowledge. I was not a scientist, and thus I could not efficiently interpret the sort of things he was testing for, nor the methods he was using to test them. But it seemed to be largely one of 2 comparisons, one between Kovorski's schematic and his new eyewitness account of the mechanics they described, or one between the things he observed at Charlie's brain and the readouts of the laptop he attached to her head. He spent most of the time poring over the notes or the computer while chewing his pencil and furrowing his brow. Occasionally he would hop up, run to a particular sector of the apparatus, fiddle with some setting, or insert a device into the proper aperture, then nod, urgently flip the page, keep going. Once after he had pried loose a panel and stuck some wand-like instrument into it, Charlie jumped to her feet and yelped loudly. Phyl instantly recoiled from his task, and Jackson and I rushed over to see what was amiss, but she quickly chuckled and waved us off.
Kidding!
She grinned fiendishly. Jackson laughed while I merely released the breath I had been holding in fear. Truthfully, the whole thing was nerve-wracking enough without her misguided attempts at comic relief. Phyl finished his feverish examination many grueling hours later. The 3 of us bustled to our feet when he stepped away and started wiping his hands off on his shirt. Sweat was visibly dripping off his face as he exhaled excitedly.
This is easily the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire fucking life.
Thanks, Phyl.
Charlie said sarcastically, removing her helmet. He ignored her.
I mean, the sheer complexity. I feel like I've quadrupled my understanding in the last half hour. I still only get like 10% of everything that's going on.
The female brain. Phyl Kovorski's final frontier.
Phyl still could not be distracted.
Take the chemical composition of the fluid her brain is floating in, for example. It's perfectly consistent with her body. Balanced. Identical. If she doesn't drink enough water or eat enough sodium, whatever, her brain gets those same chemical conditions. Say she holds her breath. Her bloodstream is depleted of oxygen, less oxygen gets into her skull, and thus, less oxygen is received by the system of transceivers inside of her skull. They send that signal to this marvelous tower of engineering glory, and it matches that concentration of oxygen. There's the same amount in there that's in her head. She'll pass out if she holds her breath, just like a regular person. It's brilliant.
Where does that oxygen come from, brother? I asked.
No, Sid, don't encourage him.
That's the craziest part. Oxygen, that's easy. That's just from air around us. Goes in this chamber here, it gets released selectively as dictated by the information sent from her body. But more complex chemicals, amino acids, hormones, whatever, even water, caffeine, everything a brain might need. He's got this, like, perfectly balanced, self-sustaining ecosystem of genetically modified bacteria that metabolize each other's waste products to generate all of the essential chemicals for proper brain function. It's like a living factory of biomolecular synthesis in these compartments. Thousands of distinct species of unicellular organisms Kovorski just whipped up to fulfill specific roles. It's astounding. Just that part alone is easily centuries beyond what modern science is capable of. And even then, that one guy did it in his lifetime. It's like...
His eyes excitedly darted around the room for a while, perhaps physically searching for the metaphor, and when he could not find a sufficient one, he merely pantomimed an explosion occurring around his own head.
Phil, this is great and all, but any progress on, like, freeing me from Howie's remote control of eternal darkness? Could you, like, I don't know, change the radio frequency or something if you wanted to?
Oh, man. Oh, man. I forgot to tell you the best part. It's not radio.
Huh?
The communication between your brain and body, it's not radio. It's not even electromagnetic. There's something different, better, more efficient that's sending information, possibly even faster.
You mean, wait.
Jackson shut his eyes and shook his head.
Faster than light. I know I'm not a physicist. That's not possible, right?
Phyl literally shook with unbridled excitement, grinning ear to ear.
So, I'm ahead of myself, backtracking a little. There's this word in Kovorski's journal. Shows up like 20,000 times per page for every single thing he's ever written about, and until today I had no idea what it meant. I'm pretty good at interpreting his weird language now, but I haven't been able to decode this one particular word, which is frustratingly everywhere. By contextual clues, it's some sort of energy, a signal, or a force of nature he utilizes. The transceivers in Charlie's head and in the jar, they don't communicate via radio like we thought. They communicate via whatever the fuck this word is. Anyway, now that I've done some diagnostics, I'm pretty confident I know what he's talking about.
And what is he talking about?
Well, you know how I supposedly discovered the T-Kick interaction like 3 or 4 years ago? It turns out Kovorski developed an entire communication technology that utilizes Jacksons 2 fucking years before that. That's what the word is. The one I could never translate. It's the TI. It's Jackson's telekinetic force.
Wait. So that means Charlie's brain got taken out 2 years before I even manifested. You're telling me Kovorski was making Jacksons before I was making Jacksons?
Apparently. Hey, remember when Fly jammed you during Fly Foon? He was basically the only person who could have done that, save Kovorski, because he discovered the TI shortly after I did by observing Jackson with his compound eyes. He had those jets that tracked Jacksons, remember? He knew all about them, probably detected them coming into and out of your head the same way he originally detected the source of Jackson's telekinesis. Then he just made a device to send interference the same way traditional jammer does, only with random TI noise instead of with radio.
Actually, now that you mention it, when Skeleton jammed me, it was different than when Howie does it. It was static and buzzing, like I was still in my body, but everything was distorted, whereas with Prophet, it's just dark.
Right, because it's a completely different mechanism. Fly was just mucking up the clarity of the signal. Howie literally shuts off the transceivers on your brain so they can't talk to the ones on your body.
So, what Howie does, it's just a TV remote, essentially.
Well, I mean, different medium of transmission, yeah. TV remotes are still just infrared light. The signals from Howie's remotes are Jacksons as well. Longer range, plus nobody could develop a competitor without first knowing about the T-Kick interaction, which The list of people who know about that is short, and 2 of the people on that list are in jail. So basically, he monopolized the market for powering off Charlie.
Except now that you know that it's Jackson's, you could do it, right? Could you rig it up so his remotes don't do anything anymore?
He shrugged smugly.
Sure, receiver's right there.
And he jabbed the eraser of his pencil at a tiny black rectangle right below her brain. This little piece of machinery, so small I had to squint to see it, insignificant to the rest of her brain's operation, was possibly all that was keeping Charlie under Howie's thumb. I glanced over to her, read the impatient fire in her eyes as she bit her lip and stared at that rectangle, and a pit sank in my stomach. I could tell from the look on her face she was contemplating setting herself free, and surely if she did, a man as powerful as Prophet, a man with his level of foresight, would have a devious punishment in store as recompense. I could not allow my new sister to climb to the highest branch of the tree. Charlie, please do not.
You sure that's the one? I ungroup it, I'm out.
Whoa, wait a minute, love.
I'm sure.
Phil seemed oblivious to the situation.
Granted, there's a lot of, vital lines, intricate pieces running through here, so don't, smash it with a hammer or anything like that, but if he fixed it carefully, just ungroup that piece.
Phil, shut up. Charlie, dumb idea. The dumbest idea.
Why? I could ungroup it and then get the Prophet right now before he even realized he lost his power over me. I'll shoot him in the back of the head while he's sleeping. Even if he forecasted it, if he can't shut me off, how's he gonna stop me?
Nope. No way. This is not what I signed up for here. This was fact-finding, Charlie. You promised me.
But what's he gonna do, JT?
I'm not in the business of anticipating Prophet's next move. You and I both know damn well he wouldn't let you come down here if he thought there was a chance in hell you'd be able to kill him because of it.
He always has a contingency plan, my dear. I chimed in, grateful to finally have an ally in the cautious and reasonable camp. Howie has already demonstrated a methodology for blocking your sixth sense in the oubliette. Suppose he has forecasted that you are coming to kill him and employs the sixth block when you attempt to regroup close to him. You cannot regroup without your sixth sense. She still had not broken her fiery glare at that little black rectangle.
Okay, fine. I just won't group at all until he comes back to HQ, and then I'll shoot him. Or better yet, I'll walk. I'll go find him and shoot him. The six blocker stops me from grouping. It can't stop my gun.
He threw me out of a window, love.
Jackson emphatically reminded her.
If that wasn't telekinesis, sure felt like it. Now you think you can't stop a bullet? Hell, I can stop a bullet. I don't even know they're coming. Imagine how easy it'd be if I did.
Think of all the failed attempts on his life, Charlie. Think of the day in Kovorski's lab when you yourself tried to use Guillermo against Prophet and could not even point the gun at him. Think of all the times you have tried to ungroup him over the years. Howard Prophet cannot be so easily killed. He is too well prepared, and the risks are far too great for what happens after you fail. She began to chew her thumb, realizing the fragility of her impulsive plan, but unwilling to relent her freedom so quickly when it was right in front of her.
So, what if I just ungroup this little thing and he can't use his remote on me anymore, but I won't tell him that? What if we just, take away that one little bit of power he has over me and lay low until we can take more bits of power? Maybe he won't notice?
Can you imagine what he'll do if he does?
And still, it is too risky. Suppose that he has that receiver booby-trapped. I submitted for consideration. Suppose that the instant you ungroup it, your brain gets scrambled or flushed with poisons, or we simply do not know.
That's not on the schematics.
Phil again obtusely contributed.
Yeah, because Howie would totally let Kovorski put that on the schematics, then hand them to you, Phil. What if he got him to add it later? Kovorski lives down here. What if he rigged up a trap last week in anticipation of this very thing?
Physically, your brain is stuck down here as well, my dear. You cannot group it. Jackson or I could hardly carry it out the door without every agent of Beam trying to stop us, and eventually Prophet himself. As things stand now, he could easily just re-establish control as soon as he thwarted you and then undo the meager progress we made today.
Yeah, Sid's right. He could kill you, get Kovorski to replace the receiver, fail-safe you back up, hide it again, and just like that, we've accomplished nothing. This whole thing would be a total waste. Then he'd probably kill Phil just to teach us a lesson.
I'm suddenly not a fan of this idea myself, Charlie.
Shut the fuck up, Phil.
Charlie growled and finally looked away from the tiny black rectangle that represented her chains. She looked from me to Jackson and back again, disappointed, broken, then returned to watching her chance to be free.
So we're right back where we started. right back to the beginning of the year, too petrified of how we might do to make any sort of difference. We're right back to cautious and scared and... Rat King.
Rat King? I questioned aloud, but she paid me no attention.
Charlie, look at me.
Jackson implored her to deliver the final blow to her fledgling rebellion, and she did hesitantly. He placed his hand on her cheeks and looked her straight in the eyes.
Someone once said to me, we're all going to get out of this shit together. You remember the rest?
Or we're simply not going to get out of it. Yeah, I know.
And maybe we'll plummet into the abyss screaming bloody murder, but at least we'll do it together, understand?
Stop fucking quoting me at me. It's creepy.
Charlie, do you...
I got it. You're right, okay? I just got overexcited, but we can't lose sight of the higher goal. We can't tempt Prophet's vengeance prematurely for each other and all the people who depend on us, for the baby who's kept us alive. All of that. I know.
This honestly was a productive day. I mean, I learned a lot. It may seem like a baby step, but just getting an understanding of what Howie's capable of is something. Half of what's keeping us around is we don't know what actually happens when we break the rules. At least now we know a little bit. Killed a bit of his mystery. I don't know.
I think you are correct, brother. I wrapped my arm around him and squeezed his shoulder. So long as we do not relinquish these small victories, I think we are inching toward the higher goal. This was a win, my dear. She twitched the corner of her mouth up.
Yeah, I know.
She sounded rather unconvinced of this victory, but at least she would not do anything rash. Strange how only weeks ago it was her convincing me not to act out emotionally, overstep, and test Howie's limits upon discovering the failsafe's true nature, and months before that it was Jackson who initiated Prophet's wrath by shoving aside his hand in his office. Seemed we all took turns, being the one out on the ledge, while the other two dragged him or her off. Hopefully our periodic brazen moments would never coincide, or else surely we would attempt something very stupid. Or maybe we were just biding time for the brand of stupid we could all agree on. Once we had moved back up to Phy's cell and started walking toward the elevator, Jackson glanced over to me.
Hey, Sid?
Yes, my brother.
Sorry, sort of random, but I'm curious. Earlier, when we woke you up, you said you were having a good dream. What was it you were dreaming about exactly?
Jump down, Cidney. I will catch you.
Promise?
I will always catch you, my dear. The image of my beautiful little sister falling into my arms quickly flashed through my mind. I did not have the heart to say the truth in front of Charlie, but what I replied, while false, would have been just as good of a dream. You, my friend. You and Charlie, Phyl, Murphy, Caraway, me, why, even Patrick the Lobster. All of us, 10 or so years from now, we had summed up our tiny victories and broken free. We were happy and unbound. Together.
Dang. Yeah, that does sound nice. Perfect, really. Sorry we woke you up.
He was not wrong. It was the ultimate dream. And I would sacrifice every ounce of happiness I ever had the fortune to stumble upon in exchange for knowing they were out, safe and free. Jackson and Charlie would never allow me to make such a self-sacrificial trade, though, the same way Jackson and I refused to allow Charlie to put herself at risk for us. We would get out together, or we would not get out at all. That was supposedly our deal. It was one I could get fully behind. Charlie broke it 3 months later, when she died.
Thank you for listening to The Beam Chronicles, a fiction podcast written and produced by me, MJ Dooney. 5 stars on Spotify or Apple, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. Email me at beamchronicles@gmail.com just to talk and stuff. You know the drill. Special thanks to my niece for providing the voice of little Cidney. She did an amazing job. I'm not going to say her name because she's a little kid, but if she's listening... Actually, no, please stop listening. This show has, like, so many cuss words and, like, mature stuff. And where's your mother? Just kidding. My sister doesn't listen to the show either. So now that we've hit 5,000 downloads, I don't have a big goal that we're close to. There's only 2 more episodes in this book. And then I'm going to take a big old hiatus to focus on the AP test. I'm a math teacher. And to get ahead on episodes over the summer. stuff like that. All music and sound effects were sourced from the Epidemic Sound Library. Special thanks to Sergio Duarte for creating the cover art for the show, and thanks again for listening.